What's good, people? Samurai Lee here. I'm back for another fight talk. This is not just any fight talk, this is fight talk number 1 in association with Combat Docket. This is going to be a weekly video podcast that comes out on combatdocket.com. We're going to be going over all the boxing from the week before, what's hot in the news, analysis and predictions on all the boxing going on. So I'm really looking forward to getting started with these guys, and there's going to be a lot more content to come in the future. We're going to start off talking about the big one, the fight that was announced last week. They had the press conference yesterday in New York. I'm of course talking about Gennady Triple G Golovkin coming over to our shores in the UK to defend his middleweight titles against Britain's own Kell Brook. Kell Brook is the welterweight world champion. He's the IBF world champion, and it's 2 weight divisions higher he's going to be fighting Golovkin at. There's been a lot of talk on the weight. A lot of people saying Kell Brook's too small to challenge Golovkin. In a sense, he is. As I say, he's been fighting 2 weights lower than Golovkin has been. But he's a big welterweight. It's a hard weight cut for him down to there. He walks around above the 160 limit for middleweight, so it would just mean that he doesn't have to cut anywhere near as much as he would do defending his title down at welterweight, 147 pounds. That being said, if this, Kell's been quite adamant and quite vocal on the fact that he believes he hits harder at 160 when he's in camp on his way down to 147. This is where he feels the strongest. He hits harder and he feels like more of an animal. Obviously, he's more hydrated and has a lot more energy. The only question I would have is, why has it taken a fight of this magnitude to get him to go to this weight? If that was true, that he felt better at this weight, I'm pretty sure he would have gone here earlier. I believe he's taken the fight because it's an amazing opportunity. The big fights have been hard to make for Eddie Hearn, Kell Brook's promoter. He's struggled to get the big fight since he won the world title. He's had 3 defences of it. None of them, spectacular opponents. Kevin Bizier, Jojo Dan and Frankie Gavin in the middle of those 2. So he hasn't set the world on fire. He's one of the best welterweights in the world. There's no doubt about it. This fight will prove if he's one of the best fighters in the world, pound for pound at all weights, because Gennady Triple G Golovkin is widely regarded as the top 1, 2, maybe 3 pound for pound fighters in the world, but he's certainly a different animal than Kell Brook has ever been in with. Kell Brook may feel stronger, he may feel he hits harder at this weight, but has he ever been hit by someone who hits as hard as Gennady Golovkin? Gennady Golovkin is a massive puncher at middleweight. He's beaten guys that are now campaigning at super middleweight, such as Martin Murray. Gennady Golovkin is widely avoided. Canelo Alvarez vacated his title to not fight Golovkin, so I have nothing but the utmost respect for Kell Brook for taking this fight. It's, in a sense, it's a win-win. It's very much like when Amir Khan went and fought Canelo Alvarez. He got knocked out in spectacular fashion, but he gained a lot of plaudits and a lot of praise for taking such a big fight. I think the same case can be said for Kell Brook. It's not a fight anyone saw coming. And it's a fight that he has stuck his neck on the line, and he's taken the fight with the best guy out there. So nothing but respect for Kell Brook. The fight we all expected to be made for Golovkin was Chris Eubank Jr. If you know about Chris Eubank Jr. and you know about his father, Chris Eubank Sr., you know that they can be difficult to deal with. A lot of promoters in the game have said that. Now, what they've essentially done is priced themselves out of this fight by believing they're bigger than they are. Kell Brook is world champion, saw the terms of the contract and accepted it within 48 hours. Chris Eubank Sr., who's representing his son Junior, he had some outrageous demands. He wanted ticket prices doubled. He wanted to be able to choose the commentators. He wanted to be able to choose the undercard and what each undercard fighter was paid. Outrageous demands from the manager of a fighter in Chris Eubank Jr., who I believe will go to the very, very top. I think he's an amazing prospect. At the moment, he's British champion. He's nowhere near on the level of these guys. Yet Chris Eubank Sr. felt he deserved a massive slice of the pie, and even bigger than Kell Brook has accepted. So they, I now believe it's time for Chris Eubank Jr. to look at his career and look at his father as a manager and believe and say to him, Dad, you're costing me the big fights. You have my best interests at heart, but you're unrealistic and greedy, and I'm missing out on the big fights because of this. If he does that, there will be big fights down the road. There's a possibility he could fight on the undercard of this fight and then fight the winner of Brook versus Gennady Golovkin. So if he's smart and takes a step back and realizes it's a great model and a great contract offer, it's a big fight for him. He's just got to not be too greedy. And I believe Chris Eubank Jr. now needs to be more involved in his own career than he has been. He's been doing the fighting and letting his dad do the talking for him. I think it's now time he stepped up to the plate. He's a big 25, 26-year-old man and started having a bit of responsibility for himself and making his own decisions regarding these fights. I'm going to briefly talk about the fight going on in Cardiff on Saturday night. Guillermo Rigondeux, who is, again, he's regarded as one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. He is coming over to Cardiff to fight Jazza Dickens. Now, Rigondeux is a 35-year-old who's only had 16 professional bouts. He is one of the best. He's beat, Nonito Donaire, who was regarded as one of the best at the time. The problem with Rigondeux is his inactivity. I think he's had 3 fights in 4 years or something along those lines. He's had to pull out of fights for injuries and visa issues in the past. If he can stay active, he is one of the very best. It's just he doesn't get the big fights for this reason. He's not active enough. He doesn't fight often enough for people to be interested in him. That's my opinion. He's coming over to Cardiff to fight Jazza Dickens, who is, if I'm honest, nowhere near on his level. Fair play to Jazza Dickens for taking the fight. It's similar to me to the Brook Golovkin situation. It's a 1 in a million fight. It's a dream fight. It's a win-win situation. You can only go from strength to strength from here. As long as you put on a good show in the biggest fight of your career, people are going to talk about you. Guillermo Rigondeux will get the job done. I have no doubt in my mind at all he'll win the fight. He'll probably get a stoppage of Jazza Dickens, although Dickens is a tough guy and he won't want to be stopped. I think Rigondeux's hand speed and his punch technique and the amount of punches he throws will be too much for Dickens, and he'll get a stoppage, maybe mid to late rounds. Thanks for watching, guys. This has been Fight Talk 1 in association with Combat Docket, your weekly podcast coming at you from Samurai Lee. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more content.